Wonderful World of Darklords. Report 28, The Bathhouse of the Spirits. When I emerged from the mists, I thought at first that they had led me to the wrong domain. I stood on a bare mountain, ravaged by loggers and miners, with no bathhouse in sight. Hearing the sound of running water in the distance, I proceeded toward it in the hopes that the bathhouse would be there. The sound led me to what looked like a ghost town, although, given the lack of houses, perhaps ghost marketplace is a more accurate term. Empty shops and restaurants lined the streets, which eldritch sight reveals to have heavy auras of enchantment. Across the bridge stood an enormous structure that must have been the bathhouse, but it looked as though it had been abandoned for years. As the sun set, a bouquet of mouth-watering aromas drifted from the food stalls. Between the enchantment magic and the cold radiating from my ring of protection, I knew my sudden hunger was not merely the natural temptation of a delicious meal, and I hurried across the bridge toward a bathhouse that now bustled with activity and glowed with the light from hundreds of lanterns. Although I cast invisibility in order to cross the bridge unmolested, some of the spirits still saw me and began to shout that a human had invaded their realm. I carried on. I knew from my patron's advice and my own research that I had only one hope of staying in the bathhouse without being transformed into the evening's meal, and that she was inside, counting the gold she had collected from centuries of customers. The Lord. A hag-like archfey named Yubaba has been the proprietor of the bathhouse for time out of mind, which, given that it services the Fae, must be a very long time indeed. Yubaba's obsession with gold made me suspect at first that she was some sort of incarnation of avarice, a theory that was bolstered by the grasping nature of her employees. However, the way she spoke of human greed and the attitude that she showed towards certain patrons led me to believe that there was more to her than I had initially ascertained. A spirit of avarice might feel contemptuous superiority toward the covetous humans who fell into her hands, but when Yubaba spoke of the pigs in her pens who had once been human, she positively radiated wrath and disgust. What's more, when the bathhouse employees had the opportunity to heal a spirit who had been injured by human rapacity, Yubaba would demand that we do so before we had any evidence that the spirit could pay for the service. I eventually learned that she did expect compensation, but this was the only instance in which she allowed the customers to pay on credit. I believe that Yubaba's greed was a response to that of humans, an adaptation that she feels will allow her to survive in a heartless and mercenary world. My patron had given me precise instructions on how to remain in the bathhouse with my identity intact. A pleasant change from Westview, to be sure, although I would like to remind him for the record that this marks the second time that I have put myself in the absolute power of a witch at his request. After making my way to her luxurious quarters through a combination of magic and stealth, I asked Yubaba to give me a job in the bathhouse, a request that she is unable to refuse. Although she blustered and subjected me to various magical abuses in her attempts to intimidate me, I held firm, and she at last relented and allowed that I could remain at the bathhouse as a drudge. If I signed away my name. It is well that my patron warned me that this would be her condition, and of how I could circumvent it. Otherwise I would have left the bathhouse on the spot, even at the risk of losing this commission. As it was, it took all my mettle to sign my name to her contract. Yubaba studied the ink. Danielle Dunning. Well, your family name puts far too much of a hold on you for any part of that to stay. With a gesture, my surname vanished into the palm of her hand. I did not even realize until later that all my memories of my family went along with it, for they were gone so quickly that I could not notice their absence. And someone else has a lien on that D. Another wave, and the first letter of my given name was gone, followed by the next 3 letters, and all memories of my patron, my task, and my life outside the bathhouse. Your name is L. Go to the employees' quarters and get to work. I obeyed at once. For what other purpose did I have? The land. The Fae are notorious for their backbiting and intrigue, so it is perhaps appropriate that a bathhouse serving them is filled with machinations to rival a Borkin court. Infected with Yubaba's greed and deprived of any identity, purpose, or moral center outside their employment, the workers will do almost anything to secure a tip. During my time there, I saw attendants bribing the foreman, stealing bath tokens, and even poisoning rivals who had been assigned to wealthier customers so that they could step in. Yubaba mercilessly punishes anyone whose schemes threaten the efficiency or reputation of the bathhouse, if she can catch them. It was impossible not to notice the physical differences between the various members of the bathhouse. While many of the menial laborers looked almost entirely human, others had decidedly alien characteristics, from multiple long, spider-like arms to frog-like faces to, in the case of Yubaba's apprentice Haku, a full-fledged dragon form. My initial theory was that Yubaba employed fae and spirits for the more desirable positions, while leaving humans to do the rest. I still believe this to be partially true. From my limited interactions with Haku, I do not believe he was ever human. A later incident at the bathhouse, however, put this hierarchy in a new light. At one point, the foreman refused to give me a bath token that my customer had specifically requested, saying that the aromas of the herbal soak would be neutralized by my vile human stench. I used Mage Hand to steal it. As I was preparing the bath, I noticed that my own hand had changed in appearance, the skin becoming as spectral and transparent as the magical one I had summoned, the bones clearly visible beneath. I believe now that the longer humans remain at the bathhouse, the more our bodies change, with the most senior members being the most dramatically transformed of all. Dread possibilities. Thankfully, my time as L was limited. On my patron's advice, I had written my name on a piece of parchment and hidden it among my spell components. When I cast Fly in order to scrub the shoulders of a massive tree spirit, I pulled out my name along with the wing feather that I needed for the spell, and my memories flooded back like water from the tap above me. I knew that those who attempted to run away from the bathhouse without their names could look forward to transforming into an empty, purposeless creature called a no-face. As I had recovered my name, I might have been able to escape without that particular risk, but I knew enough about Fey contracts to be wary of reneging on one. I had to find some way to buy out my contract from Yubaba, but how? My chance arrived one day when the bathhouse fell into chaos, for several of those no-faces had found their way inside and were devouring workers and customers alike. With no identities of their own, and the constant greed of the domain spurring them onward, they were attempting to fill the emptiness inside of their souls by consuming others. I informed Yubaba that I would help her with the infestation if she voided my contract. Given that the No-Faces had just devoured the Lord of the Dancing Men, she had little choice but to agree. Once we had chased the No-Faces away from the bathhouse, Yubaba turned on her employees in a rage, demanding to know who had invited them inside and thus nullified her various magical protections from intruders. She was shocked when the workers informed her that she had ordered them to invite the No-Faces inside. Although illusion magic seemed like the obvious culprit, I did not know who would have had the motive to cast it. Perhaps a Fey noble who knew that a rival was relaxing at the bathhouse that day? I made a stop by the boiler room on my way out, for Kamaji the boiler man seems knowledgeable about the inner workings of the bathhouse and had always been kind to me. He informed me that Yubaba had an identical twin, Zeniba, and that the two had all the tender familial affection of the warring siblings of Kalikari. Zeniba was constantly working to sabotage the bathhouse, while Yubaba sought to steal her sister's magic for herself. Zeniba must have posed as Yubaba for this particular escapade. Kamaji had no insight as to what had started the war between them, only that he had once heard Zeniba describe the two of them as one person split down the middle. Perhaps, like the No-Faces, they longed to devour one another in order to become whole. Parting thoughts. When I attempted to visit Zeniba's home in Swamp Bottom before leaving, I was rebuffed by thousands of paper birds with razor-sharp wings. It seems that Yubaba's sister shares her animosity toward humans, but is under no obligation to welcome them. Perhaps the borders of my next destination are closed, or perhaps the avarice of the bathhouse is having a final say in my life, for the mists have deposited me at a counting house in what appears to be Londinium, called Scrooge and Marley. I will spend the night at an inn here before continuing on my journey, so that the borders will have time to open. Whether because I remembered my name or because I left Yubaba's employment, my hand is returning to normal. Had my body been permanently altered by a witch, I can assure you that I would not have nearly this level of composure. I cannot describe the relief I feel at having earned my name from her, for it is clear that she would never have given it or anything else without a cost. She is a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Yubaba, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. In this spirit, while I shall return to my usual moniker in my next report, I cannot bring myself to use it in this one. Having regained my full name, I find that I have no desire to cut it short tonight, for every part of it is precious to me. Regards, Danielle Denny.
The minds of the Fae are often indecipherable, and many mortals mistake them for forces of chaos. Yet they are governed by their own, rather unique, laws. A powerful Fae of nature, for example, is compelled to protect the lesser Fae of their realm. Furthermore, even those that exhibit outward disdain toward mortals have the tendency to emulate them. Greed is, after all, a solely mortal folly, and my servant has just witnessed a Fae realm thoroughly influenced by such selfish desires. There is power in names, as you, Danielle, Denny, know more than others. When a true name of a person, or even an object, is freely given, or spoken, and spoken correctly, one can completely dominate the bearer of that name. The method Yubaba utilizes to enact such control is intriguing, though one could achieve the same results with a simple modify memory spell, without the need for such theatrics. However, the resulting transmutations upon the subject that my devoted servant experienced firsthand, though not unique, is worth close examination. Rest assured, your continued loyalty is thoroughly appreciated, and why my little scholar is more than fairly compensated for her diligent research. If in the future she should find herself with a seemingly permanent disfigurement, she will find there is little in the way of magic that I cannot reverse.
This has been The Wonderful World of Darklords. We have no affiliation with Disney or Wizards of the Coast. All music recordings used in this episode are in the public domain and were obtained through museopen.org. Titles and links are in the show notes. Dialogue for Yensid was written by Aslan Rex himself, who you can follow on Tumblr at DarklordAslan. The Wonderful World of Darklords logo was designed by Haylight Jones. You can find links to their work in the show notes. If you'd like to support the show, look for us on patreon.com or find our tip jar on Red Circle. Thanks for listening.